What's the good word, y'all? DKB here. So let's dive into the raging Aaron Rodgers debate. People that have paid attention to Jets Flight Squad and the couple videos I produced around this whole Aaron Rodgers saga, they know how I feel. I'm strictly against bringing in Aaron Rodgers, although I can understand the move, and if it makes sense, as long as we're factoring in that this is most likely a one-year deal, then I'm all on board. But with that said, we got recent reports that were put out that general manager Joe Douglas has been admitting to people around the league the franchise will go all out in an attempt to bring Rodgers to our beloved Gang Green, and that it only makes sense, which from that perspective, if we just want to break down that one particular source and information, it does. Bringing Aaron Rodgers in alleviates a lot of things. For one of the most established quarterbacks not named Tom Brady in the league. Arguably, you won't find another quarterback better than him, even going into, I think, age 40 or 41 for himself. His performances have spoke for himself. Even in a down year, I think he ranks 7th or higher in every major passing category if you transfer that over to the New York Jets and what we've done. With that said, that's not a hard feat to necessarily do, since we've had 20 plus years of terrible quarterback play with a season or two or stretches of two of average at best play that it still hasn't put us in modern passing territory, but it's been acceptable performances. So from that aspect, it makes a lot of sense. We bring in a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers essentially becomes our veteran bridge quarterback. Because the other source and information is that the New York Jets don't plan on even having Zach Wilson on the trading block. They still fully believe in his ability to develop and then be able to become that capable starter they're looking for as a franchise quarterback, as long as he can get it done behind the scenes with the veteran quarterback established in front of him. So kind of going back into the first portion of that information, bringing in Aaron Rodgers satisfies that. Veteran established quarterback, it immediately, and I was talking to not Brian, I forget his name now, but I had in a New York Jets reporter. We discussed this whole debate about what kind of expectations is bringing in Aaron Rodgers set for the New York Jets, and it is absolutely 100% Super Bowl or bust. I strongly feel that way. Just getting into the playoffs, making it to the AFC Championship is not enough. We 100% have to go out and win, and a lot of that is based on what we're saying compensation-wise is going to take to bring Aaron Rodgers. He's not getting cut. He'll absolutely 100% have to get traded, and so it just puts us in a situation where our back is really up against the wall, and we have to throw every dart possible that we can in a situation where we go to acquire Aaron Rodgers in order to make it work. So he comes in, veteran bridge quarterback. Zach Wilson gets his key mentor. It's a guy that he's been in contact with since he's came into the league. Aaron Rodgers spoken highly of him, even as recent as a few weeks ago, was mentioning that he still thinks Zach Wilson is immensely talented, and as long as he stays humble and shows a bit of humility, can 100% still be a great quarterback in this league. So you have that relationship. Zach Wilson gets to emulate and learn from one of the best in the game to ever do it, especially for what ultimately would end up being very similar playing styles, and they have the overlap in between the understanding of the offense that Aaron Rodgers has been in for years now. So we have that. On the other side, we have the compensation. What is it going to take? We've been hearing at minimum 2 first-rounders for weeks now, potentially I want to say months, but certainly at least for the last few weeks. I've only seen one report that mentioned something about at least 1 first-rounder, and then maybe there's compensation talks about, at least a mid-round pick to be coupled with that. But again, that is a lot to give up for Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not saying he's not necessarily worth it. I just don't think it's the most prudent thing for our situation, where we have a very young roster. Offensively and defensively, it's developed a lot quicker than we were expecting, and so a guy like Aaron Rodgers can definitely unlock it and take it to that next level. But it's still the fact that we ultimately get him, we get him for 1 year. Let's say best case scenario, he comes on board, he gets us a Super Bowl, and we get the ring. Ideally, we're still looking at a situation where that very next offseason, he's going to be considering if he wants to still play. Retirement talks. We'll be having to figure out what we want to do with a Zach Wilson and potentially, as I mentioned, another young developmental quarterback like a Hendon Hooker that we bring in, unless we want to go the veteran route again and, maybe snatch somebody out of retirement like a Blake Bortles or try to have somebody like a Gardner Minshew or somebody in there as well, since we do like to keep 3 quarterbacks in the room. So I don't know, guys. I'm not 100% sold on the Aaron Rodgers drama. Obviously, having the Super Bowl ring would be fantastic, right? That's what you play the game for. But I don't think sacrificing 2 first-rounders is worth the risk at potentially. Nothing's ever guaranteed. Aaron Rodgers can get hurt. Whatever reason, his performance can fall off, the cliff. Again, we're talking about age 40 plus, or things might just not click with the roster. Nathaniel Hackett, obviously, is the binding connection here, and that's what triggered a lot of people starting to go crazy about the Aaron Rodgers to Jets conversation. But in the same token, a lot of people weren't excited about the Nathaniel Hackett hire. They took a look at, of course, recency bias, that Denver Broncos led team that got him fired 2 weeks before the season and how terrible that was. And we're talking about him bringing on Russell Wilson. But again, great conversation with the New York Jets reporter that I had brought on. And you should be able to find it pretty recently if you want to catch up with it again. I'll try to make sure I put it up in like the little box you see in the top right. But he mentioned there was a huge power struggle there. They brought on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson did not want to have to adjust to the concepts and the offense that Nathaniel Hackett wanted to run. He also just couldn't sit Russell Wilson, and so he essentially lost a power struggle, which we shouldn't, we're not, foreigners to that situation. We've seen it with Adam Gase and Mike McCagnon and that whole situation. And so to see it play out between a coaching staff and player personnel, I would imagine is even more of an issue, right? So for the simple reasons, ultimately my struggle is that it comes down to compensation. If we give up 1 first rounder, and maybe we give up a mid-round pick or something like that, I'm all for it. I still don't love the idea of it being a 1-year rental, but much more acceptable. Spending 2 first-rounders to bring him in, and there's still a lot of these question marks that's going to happen immediately after the season, I'm not for it. The only way this really makes sense is, again, we'd have to win a Super Bowl, and based on the plan that Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas seem committed to when it comes to Zach Wilson, this still very much so puts him in play to try to salvage his career with the New York Jets and prove he can play to his draft status and become the franchise quarterback that we drafted him to. If we don't get the Super Bowl ring, and let's say it is truly a 1-year rental, let's say we even get 2 years out of him, and Zach Wilson still ultimately ends up being a bust, then us securing Aaron Rodgers ultimately did nothing to us. We still ended up failing at what the mission was, and at that point, we're probably cleaning house from top to bottom again. Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas are going to be out the building. We're going to have a more veteran presence with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, and Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims, probably one of the 2 will have to go for sure, and a whole host of other issues that are going to come up with having to do a rebuild once again. But I don't know. This video was more of a rant than probably any video I've done prior to this. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are ultimately on where you stand with acquiring Aaron Rodgers, what it can mean for the team, and if I'm crazy, call it out. If you guys agree or you have other thoughts, I'd love to hear the opinions, but I will catch you guys again. Peace.